Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Ryan. Whether this is your first time joining us or you've been listening for a while, welcome to Speak Up. We're really happy you're here. This podcast is all about helping you improve your English in fun and practical ways. We know how tough it can be to stay motivated, especially when life is busy. But here, we keep things light, simple, and real, because learning English doesn't have to be stressful.
Hi everyone, I'm Priya, and I just want to say you're doing great. Seriously, if you've hit play on this episode, that means you care about growing your English skills, and that's something to be proud of. This show is designed for people like you, everyday learners, students, professionals, parents, people who want to get better without feeling overwhelmed. So wherever you're listening from, we're glad to have you here.
All right, let's talk about today's topic. Why listening is important to learn English. It's one that doesn't always get enough attention, but it can completely change the way you learn. And here's a question I want you to think about. What if I told you that you're learning English the wrong way if you're not listening enough? That might sound bold, but stay with us. There's a reason why we're saying that.
I love that question, Ryan, because it really makes you think. Most learners jump straight into speaking or grammar drills, but they miss something powerful, and we're going to explore that today. Listening is more than just hearing words. It's how your brain starts to really connect with the language. But don't worry, we'll keep things clear and relatable, just like always.
So if you've been wondering why English still feels a little hard or awkward even after all your effort, today's episode, Why Listening is Important to Learn English, might be the missing piece. And the best part is, once you understand the power of listening, everything else starts to feel more natural.
So grab your headphones, get comfortable, or just let us play in the background while you go about your day. This one's going to open your eyes to something simple but powerful. Let's dive in and get started.
Now that we've talked about how important listening is, let's go a bit deeper. Let's talk about why listening should actually come before speaking when you're learning English. Think about this. How does a baby learn to talk? They don't start with grammar books or speaking exercises. They just listen every single day to their parents, to music, to the world around them. That's how their brain starts to understand the language naturally, by picking up sounds, tones, and rhythm.
Exactly, Ryan. That's the perfect example. Babies build their language skills by listening first, not by speaking right away. And the same method works for adults too. If you want to improve your English naturally, you've got to train your ears before your mouth. Strong English listening skills help your brain notice patterns in grammar, sentence structure, and even pronunciation. It's like feeding your brain the right input before expecting the right output.
Right. And if you skip the listening part, it's kind of like trying to sing a song without ever hearing the tune. Sure, you might know the words, but it won't sound right. That's the same with English. Without good listening practice, your speaking won't have the right flow or rhythm. So if you're someone who wants to sound more natural or confident, focusing on listening is the first big step.
And you know what's interesting? When you listen a lot, whether it's podcasts, movies, or real conversations, you don't even realize how much you're learning. Your brain quietly absorbs grammar rules, common phrases, and even the tone people use in different situations. That's how you improve English naturally, without always having to study it like a subject.
That's so true. Some people get stuck thinking they have to speak perfectly first, but it's really the listening that builds your foundation. Just like you wouldn't build a house without a strong base, you shouldn't build your English on just speaking practice. Strong English listening skills are what support clear, confident communication later on.
So if you're feeling unsure about speaking or grammar, go back to the basics. Start listening more, and really listen. Pay attention to how people speak, the words they choose, and how they say them. It's the most natural, stress-free way to improve. And honestly, it's kind of fun too.
Now that we've seen why listening comes before speaking, let's dig into something super interesting: how listening connects directly to pronunciation. Because here's the truth, if you want to improve spoken English, it's not just about repeating words. It's about hearing them first, really clearly. Think about how often you've said a word and someone said, "What was that?" That's probably not vocabulary, it's pronunciation. And better pronunciation starts with better listening.
Yes, and here's a fun trick that helps with that: mimicking. It's something we do all the time without thinking. Like when you hear someone with a cool accent, you try to copy it, right? That's actually a powerful form of English pronunciation practice. When you mimic native speakers, how they say words, where they pause, how their voice goes up or down, you train your mouth and ears at the same time. And the best part is, it's not boring. You're learning like a child again by copying what you hear.
Exactly. And there's one technique that really takes this to the next level. It's called shadowing. Here's how it works. You play a short audio clip, like a podcast or video, and you repeat the speaker's words at the same time, just a second behind. It's like being their echo. You don't stop to translate or overthink, you just follow their rhythm. This helps you match their pronunciation, speed, and even emotion. It's one of the best ways to improve spoken English quickly and naturally.
I love shadowing. It feels strange at first, but then it becomes kind of addictive. And the cool thing is, you start to notice all the small things, like how native speakers don't say every word perfectly. They blend words, they shorten sounds, and they use emotion. Listening trains your ears to catch those details. And once you hear it, you can say it the same way. That's real English pronunciation practice.
And let's not forget the little things that make a big difference. Stress, intonation, and pauses. When you're listening carefully, you start to hear which words are louder or slower and where people naturally stop to breathe or add drama. Those things might seem small, but they're what make you sound more fluent and confident when you speak.
Totally. So if you've ever felt like your English sounds flat or too fast or just not natural, the solution isn't more grammar, it's more listening. Listen to how people speak, copy them, practice shadowing, and let your ears lead the way. That's how you really improve spoken English and sound more like a native speaker every day.
Now that we've talked about how listening shapes pronunciation, let's dive into another big win, how it helps you build vocabulary naturally. See, one of the best ways to learn English vocabulary in context is by listening to real conversations, shows, podcasts, anything that's alive and natural. Why? Because you're not just memorizing words from a list, you're hearing them in action. That's how your brain starts to understand what words really mean, not just their dictionary definition.
Exactly, Priya. You could read the word awkward 100 times in a textbook, but until you hear someone say it in a real-life English situation, like during a cringe moment in a show, you won't fully get the vibe. That's the magic of context. Listening shows you when, how, and why words are used. It teaches you tone, emotion, and the setting, all in one. That's why vocabulary sticks better when you hear it being used, not just when you study it from a list.
And that brings us to a really useful concept, passive versus active vocabulary. Passive vocabulary is what you recognize when you hear or read it, but you might not use it yourself. Active vocabulary, on the other hand, is what you can use when you speak or write. Listening helps turn passive vocabulary into active vocabulary. The more you hear a word used naturally, the more confident you feel about using it in your own conversations.
That's so true. Let me give you a quick example. Say you hear someone in a movie say, "break a leg," to wish someone good luck before a performance. If you'd only seen that phrase in a dictionary, you'd probably be confused. Like, why would anyone want to break a leg? But because you heard it in a real-life English context, with excitement before a big show, you get it. You feel the meaning. That emotional connection helps the phrase stick with you.
I love that example. And it shows that when you learn English vocabulary in context, you're also learning how to react, how to respond, and how to feel the language. You're not just decoding it, you're living it. That's what makes listening such a powerful tool. It's not just hearing words, it's understanding how those words live and breathe in real conversations.
And when that happens, English starts feeling more like a part of you, not just a subject you're studying. You stop translating in your head. You just know what to say because you've heard it so many times before. So next time you're watching a show or listening to a podcast, remember, you're not just being entertained, you're building real, usable vocabulary that'll stick with you for life. So, we've looked at how listening helps with vocabulary. Now let's talk about something many learners struggle with, grammar. And here's the good news. You don't have to memorize hundreds of rules to get better at it. Really, When you focus on English grammar through listening, you start noticing patterns without even trying. Your brain naturally picks up sentence structures, how tenses are used, and even little expressions just by hearing them over and over.
Exactly, Ryan. This is what we mean by natural English learning. When kids learn their first language, they don't sit down and learn grammar charts. They just listen, day after day, and their brain figures it out. The same thing works for English learners. The more you hear correct English, the more your brain absorbs the rhythm, the structure, and the right word order. You start using grammar correctly without even knowing the rule behind it.
Right. I know someone who really struggled with using past tense properly. He used to say things like, "Yesterday I went to the market," or "Last week I met my friend." But instead of focusing on rules, he just started listening to short English podcasts for 20 minutes a day. After a few weeks, he started saying, "I went," and "I met" without thinking about it. That's the power of English grammar through listening. It sticks because you hear it being used correctly over and over.
I love that example. It proves that listening is like training your ear and brain at the same time. You don't need to know the technical name of a tense to use it correctly. You just need to hear it enough in natural conversations. That's why I always tell my students, if you want to speak English well, first listen to how it sounds in real situations. It's truly natural English learning.
And what's even better is that this kind of learning doesn't feel like studying. You can do it while walking, cooking, commuting, anytime you can pop in your earbuds. Over time, your grammar just improves. You'll say things the right way because they sound right, not because you memorized a rule.
Totally. It's like your brain becomes your own grammar teacher, but in the background. And the more you listen, the stronger that inner teacher becomes. So, if grammar has been stressing you out, let it go and start listening more. You'll be surprised how much you learn just by tuning in to real English every day.
All right, so we've talked about how grammar gets better through listening. Now let's look at something every learner wants: fluency. When people ask me for English fluency tips, I always say it starts with listening. Why? Because to speak fluently, you have to understand what's being said to you. And the faster you understand, the faster you can reply. Listening trains your brain to catch words, connect ideas, and respond without long pauses.
Yes, think of it like this. If your brain takes too long to understand a sentence, your reply gets delayed, and that breaks fluency. But when you've been listening to speak fluent English, your brain becomes faster. It's like a workout. You hear something, understand it quickly, and your response comes out naturally. That's why people who listen to English daily, songs, shows, podcasts, often sound more confident when they speak.
Exactly. And here's something else that helps: listening to different accents and speech speeds. Don't just stick to one voice or one style. Some people speak slowly, others speak fast. Some pronounce words differently. When you expose yourself to this variety, your brain gets sharper. You start understanding more types of English, which boosts your fluency, because you're no longer stuck or confused when someone speaks differently than what you're used to.
That's such an important point, Ryan. I always tell learners, don't be afraid of fast English or unfamiliar accents. Train your ear to catch the meaning, not just the individual words. Watch British interviews, American movies, Indian YouTubers, mix it up. It builds confidence. The more you listen to speak fluent English, the more you can keep up in real conversations without feeling lost.
And honestly, it doesn't take hours. Even 15 to 20 minutes a day of focused listening can make a difference. Choose something interesting, a topic you enjoy. It keeps your brain alert. Over time, you'll notice you're not just hearing words, you're understanding them right away. That's when fluency really begins, when your brain can process English fast.
I totally agree. So if you're looking for real English fluency tips, don't just practice speaking, practice listening with full attention. Your brain will naturally link sounds to meanings, and your replies will come quicker and smoother. It's one of the most powerful and practical ways to level up your fluency. Now that we understand how listening helps with fluency and comprehension, let's talk about how to actually practice it every day. One question I hear a lot is, what are the best English listening resources? And the good news is, there are so many. Podcasts are a great place to start. There are English learning podcasts, and also podcasts on topics like history, tech, or storytelling, whatever you're into. If you're listening daily, you're already making progress.
Definitely. I always tell people, don't just limit yourself to textbooks or classroom audio. Use real-life sources. YouTube channels are amazing for this. There are channels with slow English, daily conversations, interviews, even cooking or travel vlogs. Watching something that interests you makes it easier to practice English listening daily. Plus, you can pause, rewind, and repeat as much as you need. That's not something you can do in real conversations.
Exactly. And one thing to keep in mind is your level. Beginners should start with slow, clear English, maybe something like BBC Learning English or the Speak Up podcast. If you're intermediate or advanced, jump into movies, documentaries, or even fast-paced interviews. Choosing content that matches your level is key. If it's too hard, you'll feel frustrated. If it's too easy, you won't grow.
Right. And another thing people forget is the difference between active and passive listening. Passive is when you're just playing something in the background, like while cooking, walking, or commuting. It still helps, but for faster improvement, try active listening. That's when you really sit down, focus, and maybe even take notes or repeat what you hear. Both are useful, but combining them gives the best results.
I totally agree. For example, you can passively listen to English songs or podcasts while doing chores, but maybe later spend 15 minutes actively watching a video with subtitles, then watch it again without them. That kind of repetition sharpens your ear. It makes a huge difference. The goal is to make practicing English listening daily feel like a habit, not a task.
Exactly. And just to wrap this part up, mix things up. Try news shows like VOA Learning English, watch short films, follow vloggers who speak naturally, or even talk to people online. When you use a variety of the best English listening resources, you'll keep learning fresh and fun. And the more you enjoy it, the more likely you are to stick with it every day. Finally, let's talk about something super important: how to make listening a habit, even if you've got a packed schedule. Look, life gets busy. You've got work, family, chores. But here's the truth. If you want to improve your English, you've got to build an English listening routine. And the best part? It doesn't have to take an hour. Even 10 minutes a day can make a real difference if you're consistent.
So true. People often think they need a lot of free time, but honestly, you can fit listening into small moments, like when you're brushing your teeth or having your morning coffee. Just pop in your earphones and listen to a mini podcast clip. You could even play a video while cooking dinner. These are easy ways to improve English without changing your whole day. It's about using the time you already have.
Exactly. And here's another cool idea. Try audio flashcards. Some apps let you hear vocabulary words with example sentences. Just press play and repeat what you hear. It's short, focused, and very effective. Or how about listening to your favorite English song and reading the lyrics? You'll pick up new words, improve your pronunciation, and enjoy the process at the same time.
That's one of my favorite tips. Music is so powerful for language learning. You're not just learning words, you're learning tone, emotion, and rhythm. And if you listen to the same songs a few times a week, it becomes part of your English listening routine without feeling like homework. Just like brushing your teeth, it becomes automatic.
Right. The key is consistency. It's better to listen for 10 minutes every day than 1 hour just once a week. Think of it like working out. You build results over time. Start small, but stay regular. The more you listen, the more your brain tunes into English patterns. That's the secret to improving your fluency naturally.
Absolutely. And on that note, we just want to say thank you to everyone who spent their time with us today. We hope these tips help you turn listening into a fun daily habit. Keep going, keep practicing, and don't be too hard on yourself.
Yes, thanks for joining us on Speak Up. Whether you're on your way to work, cooking dinner, or taking a break, we're so happy to be part of your English journey. Don't forget to follow the podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode. Keep listening, keep learning, and speak up with confidence.